Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Kerr-Schneider, and thank you for joining me for this week's segment of Spirited Prosperity. I am delighted to bring to you a guest today who has experience with our intuition, and Karen L. Garvey is going to share with us how we can access that intuition to live our lives more fully and with more clarity. And in the process, we are also going to cover the topic of spirituality versus religion. There's a lot happening in the world of religion today and also in the world of spirituality. And I think sometimes there's confusion around both of those topics. So Karen is going to bring us some clarity and give us her perspectives on what's happening in the worlds of spirituality and religion, and kind of give us a little bit of direction on how we can move both of those areas of our lives to different and higher places. So Karen, thank you for joining us today. It is a delight to have you with us. And I know that you have a very special story of how this journey, this part of your journey developed. So if you would take a few minutes and kind of share with our viewers a little bit about how your life kind of made this transition from more of the MBA world to the mind and body spirit world, if you would.
Right. Yeah, it is kind of an unusual story, not something that I had anticipated. What happened was I was working and I have an MBA. I came from a family that didn't really encourage a lot of conversation about spirituality. We had our religion and we went through the perfunctory education that we needed to with our religion. But anything that wasn't scientifically proven was not something that my family encouraged us to talk about, to explore. So I wound up just valuing my intellect and not thinking that much about how we are as eternal beings or what happens after death, or not contemplating anything outside of what science could indicate to be true. What changed for me was that I was working as an independent business consultant at my home. And I would go for a run a few mornings a week. And on the morning of 9/11, 2001, I finished up my run and I came back. I was punching the key code into the garage door opener in order to get into the house. And when I did that, I experienced what was happening at the World Trade Center as it was happening. Now, standing there in my driveway, I didn't have any idea what it was that I was seeing, feeling, or sensing. I just felt like it was kind of creepy, and so I put it out of my head. But that didn't last long, because within a few seconds, I was in the house and someone was ringing my phone telling me to turn on the TV. And it was at that moment that it broadcast was making suspicions about what had happened. Maybe a small plane had gotten off target. And I knew as soon as I saw the image on the TV exactly what had happened to me in the driveway 30 seconds earlier. I understood that it was a terrorist attack. I understood that it was just the beginning. I understood that I had seen what was happening, even though I had no earthly means to see this. So, I am from New York, and as a New Yorker, myself and my family spent a lot of time after 9/11 trying to help and trying to help families that had been directly affected. So I put my experience out of my mind, because it seemed pretty insignificant in comparison to what was going on around us. I knew it was my first opportunity to understand that our conscious energy is not really connected to our bodies, because there's no way I could have known what I had known. Then after some time, started to relax into a schedule again and some kind of normalcy. About a year and a half later, I started to receive simultaneous information about things that were happening all over the world with 100% accuracy. And I never received something we didn't find evidence of. It would always come to my knowledge within 24 hours through a newspaper clipping or a phone call, or local, maybe through a neighbor. But then what started to happen was even more interesting than that. I started to have, call it like having a narrator with me. It was almost like a feed that goes across the bottom of the news channel. And it was explaining not what happened, not what the crisis was or the challenge, but why it happened. I was starting to hear spiritual truths or universal wisdom or different sayings that were optimistic and helped me to understand what was going on in the world in a way I never had before. And every time I would listen to these explanations of why people were engaged in a crisis or a challenge, I felt that myself was becoming much happier and my family was becoming much happier. And I felt as though we had some kind of um, like responsibility in the direction of our lives, or that we had some control, or we were drivers of some of the direction that our lives went in. And that was comforting. And now, coming from a background where everyone valued their intellect, my circle of friends was really attorneys, accountants, doctors. So I was very resistant to tell other people. And because of that, I didn't get to cross other people that already were working in the spiritual vein who could help me understand some of the things that were going on with me. So I had to teach myself. I did let in two people. They happened to be attorneys. I don't know why I chose attorneys. I should have picked Reiki masters or someone else. But they were listening to the message. They found themselves becoming happier too. And that's when I decided that it was important that not just receive these messages, but know how to be able to open up this conduit at will and not just wait for it to come on me.
So, Karen, as I'm listening to this, and I've often been told that all of us are gifted to some degree with intuition. Um, Obviously, you have worked, you have taken time to further develop that gift that you have. Um, how do you encourage people or support them in listening to that still small voice, or um, in listening to the still small voice that perhaps you hear on their behalf? Walk me through, if you can, how that process would work. If, like, let's say if I came to you and said, I really need some assistance here. I believe, in God, but I'm having trouble trying to figure out my life right now. What does the process look like for you and I to be working together? Can you spend a few minutes on what that would look like?
Oh, sure, definitely. A lot of what I do is about helping audiences and clients reopen their intuition. I believe that we're all born with it, but our life here has a way of making us from our intuitive ability, because we really are a society that's enamored with intellect and enamored with analytical reasoning. So it's a matter of uncovering what's already inside of us, and then to learn to have faith in those inner voices and messages and the guidance that the universe, God, is providing for us. So it begins with having people do some self-exploration about how they can reliably quiet their minds. And everyone has methods that they do this, whether it's meditating or through yoga or through a walk in nature, any kind of repetitive, non-thinking activity like washing dishes or knitting or painting, any kind of activity, even a shower, listening to uplifting music, can help someone to quiet their mind. And once they learn how to quiet their mind, then they can explore the possibility of what is happening while their mind is quiet. When they stop thinking and stop planning and worrying, then they can start to sense things, the voice, messages, sensation of comfort or peace. So it is about exploring. There's so many modalities through which we are intuitive. So I also introduce people to the idea that even if one method is not working for you, it's okay. Don't lose heart. So many other ways that you can connect. And so that's what we do. We practice. We try different methods. We learn to listen to the whisper of the universe. We learn to see signs and interpret them. We learn how to start our end of the conversation, even if we can't hear the other end of it, to know that the universe or God or guides are engaged in the conversation with us. And even if we're not hearing or seeing the direct message back, we're going to get an answer somewhere in our world. And to understand the beauty of how this partnership is always helping us as soon as we begin to understand that it's there and available for us. Life for me now is one interconnected moment after another. If I were to write a novel about the experience, people would say, "You got to be kidding me. These things can't happen every single day the way that they're happening." But they do, because it's like when you get on the inside track and you know you have this partner, you're not alone on earth, and none of us are alone, and we're all connected, and there is purpose in the way that things unfold, then you get to see that guidance. You get to feel, you get to appreciate it. And the signs, as you see them, encourage you to have more faith, to rely on the resource further.
So what does so okay, so I'm thinking right now, okay, how do I get that? How long does it take for me to get that, Karen? I mean, you've been on this path for quite a while. When you start to work with someone, can you give them a time frame? Is this something that happens in, weeks or months or years? And if somebody's in the middle of a crisis right now, do you find, is it easier for them to move into this or more difficult? Are there circumstances that make us more open to this kind of work, or things that can hold us back?
Okay, those are a lot of good questions. One of the things about me being intuitive is that I can understand people's journeys from an angle that sometimes they don't have the same perspective as me. So when they have a challenge or a block or some kind of limit that's preventing them from having the happiness that they want to have, my intuition allows me to see exactly what that block or that obstacle is. So while giving them tools and techniques to increase their own intuitive ability, I'm also giving them ways of seeing what intuition is bringing to me about their journeys so that the idea of intuition and intuitive knowledge start to resonate within them and they can see that the information that I'm bringing forth for them sounds more truthful for them than perhaps what experts or people outside of themselves are telling them is true about their life. So it's a simultaneous aspect of developing intuition, continuing to remove doubt. Doubt starts to fade a lot as soon as you start to get these really great intuitive moments. And for every person, it's unique how long the journey takes. One of the challenges to make the journey a little bit longer, if someone feels a sense of desperation, is to want something too much creates a resistance. So when we're working on intuition development, if someone has that resistance, we turn to having them exercise their tools and their techniques on someone other than themselves. And it's easy because you're not invested in the outcome. You're not as much wanting one particular answer. So it's easier to hear truthfully what is really coming in. Once you get some practice with other people and you can see the accuracy of the information that you're obtaining, then it's a little bit easier to use intuition for yourself so you know what it feels like. But it's also very important to explore how many different ways we get intuitive information. Like, for example, many audiences, time audiences, they've never even heard about the difference between having a dream about a loved one that has passed away and having a visit from a loved one that's passed away. During your sleep, if a soul comes in during that dream moment, if you're having a visit, you can sense them. It feels like soul to soul connection. It feels like it's in real time. It doesn't feel like memory. It feels happy and joyful and peaceful. So that would be one example. Maybe have them log their dreams. Have people ask a question every day to a source that they feel really comfortable, whether it's someone that they knew that they love, whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whether it's to their higher selves. It's about practicing and keeping written records of what you're doing along the way. Even writing down answers you receive them helps the process because we really are in human form, we are a mind and a body and a spirit. Developing intuition is attuning you to your spirit self. You're using the mind by going through the techniques and going through the process of wanting to develop your intuition. By writing things down and recording them, you're bringing the last element in. You're having your body be a part of it. And every time we're trying to prove some element of our lives, if we're able to pull our mind and our body and our spirit into it, we usually have a much greater rate of success, much easier of a building new platform of improvement, positiveness in lives.
I'm fascinated, and as you're sharing this with me, I'm thinking, okay, so I have these two boys. I have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old son, and I'm thinking that this is something that I would like to, model for them, if you would. How do you? So there are two questions here. Number one, do you find that this is easier for men or women, or does it matter? And number two, are there, you hear the term sometimes about, sometimes they're old souls. You see children and they're old souls, or people that seem to be beyond their years, wise beyond their years. How would you go about trying to instill this in children, to get them to quiet their minds? Because as you're telling me that, I know it's hard for me, and I don't have an iPod going all the time, or an iPad, or the TV, or the texting. So I would love to hear what you would suggest for those younger people in our lives.
Well, it really is two. One is to narrate your own version of the meaning of life, but not in your face kind of way, just in a gentle, kind way. So they're getting this introduction to what life is all about as things are unfolding. So, for example, if a young child is exposed to like bullying at school or something, when they come home from school, it's a good idea to say things like, "Well, why do you think that he behaved like that? What do you think's going on in his house? And wow, he must really not love at home." And as soon as you start to narrate the reason that people are doing things, and the possibility that love will make people be happier and behave in nicer ways, connecting them more and more to love links to their own intuitive ability, because love and intuition are very, very similar. It's into the same energy. Another part of helping children is that, especially young children, it's very easy to encourage them to know things that they don't have earthly means to know. And it's a good idea to say, wow, that's so cool. I can't believe you knew that. And that it keeps it alive because we are all intuitive beings at birth. It's what humans and adults are doing that makes children separate from their intuitive ability. But if we believe in it and then we encourage them to stay ignited, the process will happen a lot more naturally. In today's world, one of the greatest difficulties kids have, though, in being intuitive is that we truly live in a very fear-based society. And what that looks like is that fear has an energy that's similar to the energy of hate. Fear and hate are the absence of the energy of love. So when someone is living in fear, they're living without that access to love, which is the energy that allows intuition to come forth. So another really beneficial thing for parents to do is to not encourage fear in the children, to make them feel like they're safe, that they're healthy, and that they will be healthy. Not to say that they have to run and, you get bacterial every time you touch somebody or walk into a store. Not to teach them to be afraid, to teach them to be able to trust their own judgment. trusting your own judgment is how you develop faith in yourself, self-love, and then you also develop more intuition because intuition works much more readily if you love yourself. Faith in yourself translates to faith in the world and in the universe. So by teaching kids to have a trust in themselves and their own ideas, you can also help them stay attuned to their own intuition. Simple questions. What feels right? That's a good question. What do you think? How do you feel about that? It helps kids to find answers inside of them rather than mimic or echo answers that other adults have been giving them about any situation. One of the very last things that I encourage people to do with their kids is to allow them to choose. We tend to tell our kids everything that they should do or should not do. But there's not that many things that we really have to tell them. We can give them choice. We can give them a lot more choices than perhaps we do. So at a youngest, my kids' stages, I would give them choices. Would you like like, or would you like tuna fish sandwich for lunch? It's not that I'm asking them, do you want lunch now? They can then have on, I don't know how I want that. But if you give them a choice, then they pick one, and it helps them to become good decision makers and also to have confidence and to trust themselves. So developing intuition in your kids is really developing the whole child so that they can open up this voice that's inside of them rather than to become reliant on the voices of the people that are around them.
Those are excellent, absolutely excellent points. And I know that our time is running short here, but there is one more. And I know we have this huge topic of spirituality versus religion that we haven't even hardly touched on. But I do want to get your thoughts on how you think maybe, religion affects our spirituality, or, because you mentioned before that we are a combination of mind, body, and spirit. So I'd love for you to take a few minutes and kind of share your perspective on that, because you have mentioned how, growing this faith in yourself and how that lends itself to confidence and growth. And then as we wrap it up, I want you also to share with us how do you know, Karen, how do you know if that still small voice, is right? How do you, or do you ever get to a place where you're absolutely certain that you're making the best choice, that you are absolutely doing what you are here to do? So.
Yeah, a lot of great questions. Yeah. My understanding now, from my perspective, about the difference between religion and spirituality is that every religion has a basis, and the basis is the same as spirituality itself. And that is that love is the foundation for all, that we are all connected, and that love is the path for harmony, for peace, for prosperity in every area. One of the things is that a lot of religions began as being the the government politics as well. So in early religions, it was not uncommon for the religious aspects of spirituality to be manipulated because people wanted power. They wanted their constituents to behave in a certain way. They had fear. But ultimately, the intention behind every religion is to make people feel connected, to make them have faith, to make them understand that there's something more than themselves and not alone, not isolated, that there's an overriding beauty to every existence. So, as far as the practice of any one particular religion, maybe there are some elements of it that are aligned with universal truth because they were accidentally or intentionally contorted by man. That's okay because there might be other elements of that practice that are very comforting or give you peace or give you a sense of community or faith. So it's important to use intuition even in the practice of any specific religion and say, just because 10% of this is not resonating with me, or doesn't feel truthful. It's okay because 90% of it is making me feel great. And then you understand that the religion can still have value for you as your personal connection to yourself and to life as eternal. So that's the key. It's to listen to what's resonating. Let me think. What was your next question?
Oh, well, the next question, and you know what? I think our viewers are going to have to tune in for our next segment, Karen, because we're out of time. But the next question
Okay.
had to do with how do you know when you're absolutely certain? And I just want to, and I think that's a great way to leave it, actually, because they may find the answer on your website. And you have written a book that is called The Answers. So I think that would be a great way for our viewers to connect with you. I absolutely have learned so much from what you've shared with us today, and I just have to tell you, you're just amazing, and I thank you for taking the time to be with us
Thank
today
you.
and to
Thanks
share
for
your
having me.
insights and to share your knowledge, because you're on this journey, and I'm so thankful that that you were able to realize it for what it's for, and then to help people move forward in their own journey. I think that's just part of the paying it forward process, and I look forward to enjoying more of your success, and I thank you for sharing your spirit here with us today, Karen.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to staying connected with you.
I'm Rachel Kerr-Schneider. That's going to wrap up today's episode of Spirited Prosperity. Thank you so much for joining us. You can visit Karen at her website, or you can get more information at www.rachelkschneider.com. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.